Okay.
Your meeting is live stream. Got it.
Thank
Go
you.
for it.
Thank you. Well, welcome to the Bluegrass BA on the Street. My name is Stephanie Hawkins, and I'm a proud member of the Bluegrass chapter. And today I have with me one of my favorite friends. His name's Tom. And Tom, I'm going to let you do the introductions about yourself, because every time I try to explain all your credentials and your background, you add like 5 more things. So I quite honestly, I'm in awe and I can't keep up. So do you mind sharing?
No, I'm Tom Tomasovic, and Stephanie mentioned that I classify myself as the Renaissance man. I have had a colorful number of careers, starting from basically dropping my engineering background. I actually graduated from MIT in chemical engineering and decided I didn't want to be an engineer, so I became an opera singer. Spent about 20 years doing that and had a lot of other interesting careers as a part of that, because for those of you that don't know, most people who wind up in the performing industries until they really make it live on subsistence jobs. And so I was living on subsistence jobs, had a bunch of interesting different kinds of things to do there. Now it's about 20 years ago, I guess, I wound up in a healthcare company doing web design because I could actually understand HTML. They were just totally jazzed by that idea. I was like, okay. And from there, migrated into the BA space because I had a wonderful boss who said, "You're one of the few people in this company who was always asking why we're doing things. What are people going to do with these things?" And so I started poking around in the BA space and found the IIBA and found BA and have been in this space ever since. Over the last 4 or 5 years, I've done some consulting work, and now I'm migrating into the training field. Currently, I train for a number of different, or I have trained for a number of different organizations. Primarily now I'm training the specialty IIBA certifications for Adaptive US. I do Agile and CBDA. I am the registered trainer for a CCA, but we have yet to offer a CCA class. And sometimes when they need some extra help, I do some ECBA training.
Wow. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I would have missed about half of it, if not more. And I know you've really been adding to your credentials with all the IIBA plus other training. So we definitely have a skilled expert to talk to today. And I wanted to really start to focus in on, like moving forward, right? Kathy mentioned at the beginning, she didn't realize that was part of the theme for tonight. So she must be a mind reader. And part of it is like when you began your BA career, or when a lot of people began it, you're doing many other things, right? Not everybody naturally goes into a BA career. They either stumble into it or people recognize them like, hey, you're asking the why and the what, and help me to understand data, and some of your natural skills that you've developed, some of your intuitiveness comes out. So when you first, so I kind of wanted to explore just a little bit about when you first got into the BA world, really what that meant and some of the things that you were doing, so people can help to recognize that, quite honestly, they're probably a BA too. They're just not thinking of it in that.
They just don't know that they are yet.
They just don't know that they are.
Yeah. Well, as I said, this transition sort of started happening around the year 2000. When I was doing web development, I was, writing code and actually was also being the webmaster at the time. And it always irritated me because the company that I worked for, we wrote documentation, but the developers wrote all the documentation. We did not have any sort of BA function, and it irritated me a lot because we had a standard BRD template, which the vice president of software development said, "We don't have time for functional specifications and business requirements documents. So just put it all in one document and we'll go from there." but I looked at it, and there were, it was, the crux of the document was, you need to do something for me. You need to do it because I asked you to do it, and we'll know when we're finished and it's successful when you give me what I asked for. And that was like the bulk of the justifications for anything that we were doing. And we also had
no.
yeah, we also had a CIO who said, we don't refuse to do anything. It's not our job to refuse. And I was like, well, what do we do when we don't have enough resources to do all of this? That doesn't count. We do everything, except for whenever he decided he didn't want to do something, he would tell the business people, you don't need that. We know you don't need that. So it was a really kind of an ad hoc kind of thing. And because I was doing web development, it was kind of outside the scope of, quote, software development. So they tucked me off with a boss who really kind of appreciated what I was doing, and really I learned a tremendous amount from him, just in terms of business and working with business. But I was kind of tucked off on the side of software development, and then I came up with this whole idea of, we really need to get better at writing some documentation. It would be really nice if business users could actually pay attention to what we were writing. In many cases, even read what was being written, because
Right.
we had a rather eclectic development team, many of whom spoke English as a second or third language.
Right.
And so there was just it's the whole growing up of what's going on. And finally, I convinced the CIO that we needed to establish a business analysis function, and further, that I should really be the one that is in charge of the business analysis function, because I was pretty
Wow.
much tired of being developer and being a manager of developers. And I thought this was so much cooler to be, talking to people and getting out and understanding the business people. And, it really rang my bells. So I was really happy to have the opportunity to do that.
Well, look, all these years later, or just a couple years later, maybe, you're still doing it. So obviously you found your passion in it. And it's really interesting that so many of the things that we do or try to do, and we have bosses that maybe don't have the appreciation for it or understanding of some of those BA tools. You talked about a BRD, the business requirements document, and I have a love for tools, and I'm always asking people about, like, what tools are you using? Because I have noticed that sometimes that's always just the weakness, right? Unless people have a structure, whether they've gone from waterfall to an agile approach, without a like a not an approach, but without a focused attempt to actually try to do better in that space, you're really just guessing, and you're pushing things out, and you're not always delivering what people need. And Tom and I are going to bring up the MVP conversation. I promised. I said I might, but we're not going to get into MVP and go down that. But it's kind of like that. It's like, how do people really know what they want unless you can get the information from them, understand it, convey it back to them, get an understanding, and then move forward. And it sounds so simple, right? I mean, we say it like that, like how hard can that be? But it is difficult because not everybody has that mindset, which is why it's great that when you realize that, that you had a passion or interest or really saw a need for it, you kind of explored it. I mean, and I look at all the different places that you're going, and now you're in instructions. I mean, just tell us the next steps on how you took it from that opportunity, a golden opportunity, and made it into what you are today.
Well, I think that it's, one of the things about it is that I've always been curious. I'm also a tools junkie, by the way.
Okay.
Yes.
I
mean, I think, did I tell you my Coach Leather story yesterday?
Yeah. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. So,
and it was another development kind of thing where I wound up working at Coach Leather and sitting there looking at spreadsheets and saying, this is crazy. There's all this manual work that's going on. So I sat down and said, okay, I'm going to write macros to do all of this. And a day or two later, I was sitting basically with my feet up on the desk, and the people around me who I loved and who loved me were like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm working. I said, my spreadsheet's doing its job. And they were
That's
just
right.
like, wow.
My
But,
tools are working for me.
my
Yes.
tools are working for me. But
Mhm.
it's, it really is a mixed blessing. I think that, a lot of us get into the tools thing, and sometimes the tools overwhelm the real process. You really need to, from my perspective, as a business analyst, you need to be curious about things. You don't need to be necessarily worrying about the tools to make things happen. You really need to be worrying about the people who make things happen, the people who have to do a job. And
Okay.
that's where I come from on this. Is in fact, when I left my last full-time job and started doing consulting and looking at training, when I was trying to put together my brand, my quote brand, I developed, or I adopted the tagline of, I enjoy helping BAs do their job better.
Oh, that's
And
perfect.
that sits on my resume, it sits on my LinkedIn profile, and I really do believe that that's what I'm doing with my life right now, is helping BAs to do their job better. I've said, as I move further and further down the road to retirement, shall we say, I look at it and say, what I would really like to do is to leave another generation of business analysts with the kind of passion that I have for the domain.
Right. And from being in training classes with you, you and I have attended several together, and you were always a person that I would chat with, or you would chat with other people, as instructors doing it, because that's what we do in a virtual world, right? You listen and you participate, and then
Chat,
you find,
chat.
and you chat, and you there's a lot of conversations which get brought back into it, in which was really how we started to really start talking about, like, BA concepts and tools, and in finding ourselves in a lot of the same classes, in you because you're curious, and me because it's like, okay, I really want to know and understand. I have these skills, but do I have the skills, that building that confidence? And so you over time have really been able to build the confidence in your skills, not just by being a practitioner and by, really working on it, and also getting those certifications. So for somebody like me who's, just striving to, I'm not a BA as a full-time career, but I really, have a passion for it. You have curiosity. I have a passion just to be better. What kind of advice could you give to me on how to, continue to grow in that, in my profession, and grow my skills, and maybe not love the tool so much, but
I
what kind of
I
advice could you
think
help me with?
I think I would say you need to embrace your curiosity. You
Okay.
need to really leverage that. Just and realize that in the BA space, it really is. It's not about what I do for myself. It's what I'm doing for other people. It,
Okay.
that really needs to be what drives you, is that there are other people out there that you have skills to be able to help. You have
Right.
skills to be able to, um, you know, to be able to be a part of developing solutions that are going to make their life better and easier. And
Okay.
that's really what it's all for. Because you make their life better, you make their life easier, and the company that you work for or the clients that you work for thrive. And so that's, kind of my key thing. And I say that to my students all the time, that, if you ask me what is the one thing that a BA really needs, I'm curiosity. You need to be willing to ask why things are being done. Just dig into the why.
Right.
And that's sometimes challenging, because you need to dig into the why, but you need to dig into the why in a way that makes people feel comfortable.
Right.
Um, you know, I
Right.
have, yeah, I have
We
a
we,
good
we can,
friend, one of my colleagues that I work with a lot. He's very fond of going into engagements and saying, "Hey, I'm the village idiot. I don't know anything about what you do. It's your job to tell me, to help me to learn what you do so that I can help you do that better."
right.
And so it becomes less of a challenge. People say, you need to ask why, you need to ask why. And there are lots of different ways to ask why. If you ask why in a gentle way, where you say, the reason I'm asking why is because I want to know so that I can help you.
Right. Right.
So you eliminate that challenge thing. So
Right.
it's curiosity expressed the right way.
Express the right way. I love that because, having that curiosity, that passion to talk to people, being on the same level with them, whether you're a very skilled practitioner or somebody who's new to it and who's growing their skills, if you have true intent and true understanding and, you know, not everybody knows everything. And what you want to know is what they know and what you can do to help them, and then leverage your skills and grow with that. So I love that approach. And because, I mean, everybody, especially when people are trying to explain things on what they're doing and they know change is coming, change is difficult, right? So you come
Yep.
as a person that I am here for some type of change, and people tend to freeze up and get a little bit anxious. So being curious and being able to put them at ease no matter who they are and being at their level really does help drive that forward. And you can have that kind of attitude whether you're a BA that has very minimal BA skills to a skilled practitioner, is that relating to people, curiosity, and being able to use the tools that we have and that we can leverage. So that's
Yeah.
that's great advice.
The other thing, and this is, I pull out of my background all the time, and as we were talking about this, I was thinking about it, and I said, the other thing is that I've experienced a lot of what goes on the other side. I mean, I said I worked at Coach, working on spreadsheets.
Mhm.
I started out I think the first job that I ever remember having was working on a soda canning line. Running a machine on a soda canning line. So I know that. I've driven a truck. I've worked in a warehouse. So I have a little bit of that. I'm not the snooty elite that comes in and knows everything. I've started most of the careers that I've had, I started at the ground up. Said,
Okay.
know nothing about this, but I'm smart enough that I can make this work, and grew it that way, so that I always have this healthy respect for the people that are doing the job, that at one point in time I probably did some of. So,
Right.
you
Well,
know,
and that's perfect. And by the way, if you were from Michigan, you would have called it pop and not soda. Just calling that out. We started out at the beginning calling where we are. So
yep.
so in thinking about, the whole time you were talking, I was thinking about like what advice. I mean, so far we've got, be curious, be compassionate, be understanding, be real with people, right? Combined with, okay, growing your skill set, meaning, okay, attending training, finding your community, finding people like I found you online
Yeah.
in various classes, and then just a rapport. And for me, it's like building that friendship, right? It's like, I know that if I have a question, I could come to you, and no matter what I asked you, you would have the same viewpoint, have a different viewpoint, but it's always a comfortable experience knowing that, that you can have that camaraderie. And so it's like, so building your community, I noticed with you, like when we first got on, a lot of people. So you've been doing that for at least a couple of years. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about that? How to master that?
Boy, wow.
I know.
That's a
Hard
really,
question.
that's a hard question, because I'm really not, I don't consider myself a people person,
Me
interestingly
either.
enough.
Me
I
either.
was
I'm the introvert.
always, I am pretty much an introvert. I
Hmm.
think the thing that tweaked me on that was, a couple of years ago at actually one of the IIBA conferences. Barb Karkanor did a presentation on the introverted BA, and all of a sudden that opened my eyes. I thought, you know, yes, I am an introvert, but that doesn't mean that I don't like to talk to people. It doesn't mean that I don't get along with people. And I'm finding, as the past few years have gone by, that I am better at that. I am pretty good at it. I think I'm still not quite good enough at drawing people out, but I'm not reluctant to share what I know with people, and I think that works a lot in my favor. So,
Right. Well, I would have to disagree. I think you do draw people out, but that's just, my opinion and probably everybody else's. So
but it's
more to
it's
you.
not something it's not something that I feel comfortable with. It certainly is. I always think, do I know what do I, can I relate to these people? Do I know what they need to know? And I'm beginning to be more comfortable at it, but it's taken me a long time.
Right.
So,
Well, just like anything, we just keep trying and trying, and and I think it brings out the human side of people. I mean, with you, you have a lot of certifications, right? So if somebody were to look at your name and all of that, they would be like, "Wait a minute!" But you are one of the most down to earth type of people, easy to talk to, easy to have a conversation. You're always super helpful, and I'm not complimenting you overly. I'm getting towards a question, quite honestly, because I have a
oh,
question for
okay,
you. So,
okay.
but I just want to assure you, you're
You're
good at that.
embarrassing me.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm probably embarrassing myself at this point. So I'll get to it. So with all of this path that you've gone on, in the credentials that you've worked on over time, and diligently worked on. I mean, I've seen the diligence that you've done to go through and get it step after step after step. Did you find any of the certifications that, or even if you didn't get a certification, but any of the areas that were really the most interesting, or like you enjoyed it the most, or something that you took it but it wasn't, it's okay but it wasn't great? Do you have any insights for me? I should be studying
Well,
for some exams here,
well,
maybe.
I'm kind of a big fan of the IIBA certifications. Um, I think that the core certification certainly makes sense for anyone who can put that together, because they're the
Right.
basis for everything. But I was, I kind of got into the Agile thing at the point when the BA domain was really the orphan child of the Agile development environment.
Right.
And there was a lot of debate that was going on, and people just were not, not accepting the idea that business analysis or a business analysis function was necessary for an agile development environment. And that's kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because from my way back when, I worked for people who basically had the attitude of, well, anybody can be an analyst. It's the people who are writing code that have the really hard jobs. And I thought, this just doesn't work for me.
Right.
So when the AAC came out, I was really interested in it, and I liked it because it's basically methodology agnostic.
Right.
So when it gets taught and I teach it, there's a lot of references to Scrum, because Scrum is the way a lot of people do Agile. But it really is, you can apply the principles of good business analysis to almost any flavor of Agile. And it really comes down to, when are you doing the work, and to what level of detail are you doing the work? The work itself remains substantially the same. So
Right.
I've become a big fan of Agile. And then when CBDA came around, I thought, this is something that I want to dig into, because it seemed like it was a little bit more um, hands-on, tooly kinds of stuff.
Right.
And and it turns out that that's substantially what it was. And I've really become kind of a data junkie over the last 2 years, with ramping up and saying, I need to take my Excel skills and move them to the next couple of levels. And then I've been grabbing onto Tableau, which is my favorite, my newest hobby horse, and
Right.
really loving that. But interestingly enough, getting a lot of work in the Tableau environment that is just tweaking things on neuropsychology. All of the, it's not just about data and visualizing data, it's about effectively visualizing data. And there's so much more to that than
Right.
I ever thought. And so it's like, wow, people are talking about psychology and building visualizations where you map through the visualization to take advantage of the way people process data. It just is, I'm finding it fascinating. So
That is fascinating, because
it
they say
just
some of
is,
the bigger like the expanding careers really are in the data scientist, the data piece, right?
yep.
Understanding data, knowing what to do with data, knowing how to understand, like you're saying, the science and the people piece of it. Like when people get data, how do they think about it, how to react to it? I mean, you can have a pile of data and not mean anything, but then do something with it. So that's
Yep.
that's
And
key.
that ties in so well to the whole BA kind of thing, because it's about, you know, transforming data into something that can motivate people to make changes, to motivate people to do something, explaining things to people, using visualizations and data to explain things to people. So it's really, you know, I'm a big fan of those. I also have the cybersecurity certification, which has been it was a moo certification. I did it because I'm a certification junkie now. And I thought, well, you know, I should have this cert, and because I had a bunch of background from back when I was doing web development and being a webmaster, I had some, you know, I kind of had some security background and some of that
Right.
technical background. That cert is a much more, I believe, a much more technically oriented certification, and I think that. You know, I think it's not very popular with the IIBA crowd, and I can certainly understand why, having gone through the certification. It's like, okay, I've got it, but you know what? I don't. If nobody ever asks me to teach a CCA class, I'll be more than happy. I would be happier than a clam. But you know, I
Yeah.
you know, and I really do. I really kind of do appreciate the specialty certifications. And I was thinking about this because you know, one of the things that you were talking about with that we didn't talk about but was in the questions were, where do I think the IIBA should be going?
Right.
And I, you know, I go in a bunch of different directions about that, because the specialty certifications don't require any specific work experience, which makes them attainable for somebody, you know, even somebody like me who is not really working in the BA space at this point, but is continuing to ramp up my knowledge, continuing to learn about these things, and you know, interested in learning about these things. But I find that I'm finding that the specialty certs don't have the penetration in the marketplace. So I think
Right.
that's an area, and I don't honestly know how the IIBA addresses that, because it's if the people who are hiring people are not respectful of the certifications for whatever reason, then there's not much that the IIBA can do about that. Although I
Right.
think they should recognize it and say, how do we get people to respect these certifications? Um,
Right.
so that's a, you know,
Right.
just a sidebar.
Well, when you think about it, it's you know, because part of ours is like, okay, mentoring and moving forward, and you know, like newer people to the profession, or somebody who has a skill set. Okay, if I get this certification, what does it mean? What do I do with it? How do I use it? And having that understanding of, okay, you know, you can obtain things, but maybe in the marketplace, and maybe not yet. But maybe as a community, we could figure out a way to sponsor it and put some teeth behind it and get people to
Yeah.
understand and embrace it a little bit more. You know, that's some opportunities there.
I think that, you know, I think from my perspective, these certifications to me are an expression of interest in what's going on. It's not like I'm, you know, saying I'm going to be God's gift to the Agile community because I have an AAC certification. Happens to be one of about 4 or 5 of them that I have in different areas. But to me, it indicates that you have an interest in this. It's
Right.
not just, I want to put some letters after my name so somebody will give me a job. It's more about, you know, I want to learn how to do this stuff. I want to be engaged in this space. And so the certifications are, you know, I think there's a significant amount of value to them. In fact, it's funny because in the way back when I was doing my development stuff was when Microsoft first started doing certifications, and I was an MCP, you know, but
Right.
we always used to joke about the paper MCSEs, the people who could take the test but didn't have clue what they were doing when
Right.
they got into doing the job. And I can see, so I've gone full circle on that, because I was like one of those, yeah, these guys don't know what they're doing, they need to get out there and do the job. And now I'm on the other side of it and saying, well, I want to continue to learn about these things. I may not have as much practical experience as a lot of people, but I can work with the people who have practical experience, and I can gain more experience and knowledge based on my knowledge that I've
Right.
garnered getting the certifications. So it's a
So,
balancing act.
well, and and honestly, it's all about like the evolution of your career or your understanding, right? It's like, where are you at, where the direction you're going, the opportunities that you take, the learning that you have in the community that you build, and, people like you that you can talk to and say, is there value in it? Help me to understand it. Or if it's an applicable skill to what they're doing, to gain that experience from the BA community to help them feel comfortable as they're growing and maturing in something that they're probably going to need to be strong in. So those are very good insights. So it's getting, we've overran time, so I'm going to ask like just one or two more questions before we open it up. So get ready. So from your training that you're doing right now at Adaptive, what is your favorite class that you're teaching?
Oh, it's got to be CBDA.
CBDA? Okay,
Oh, yeah.
CBDA. Okay. All right.
By far. And it's the reason why I like it, interestingly enough, is because there's I'm going to say there's little enough content, but the way the course is structured, I have enough time to expand and extend. So I get to play BA and BA mentor and say, here's some little sidebars that I've got. Here's, a spreadsheet that I was doing some exploratory data analysis on. Let me show you what I did here so that you can add this into your toolkit. And, here's some visualizations that I've done in Excel based on courses that I've taken. And this is the kind of stuff that you can do in Excel. So, as a BA, you need to ramp up your skills in things like Excel, because it's such an important part of what business analysts have to do these days. So I really enjoy teaching that one. That one's a lot of fun.
Okay, great. So data analytics it is. So I know you're a proud member of our IIBA Bluegrass chapter, so I'm just going to call that out and support the chapter. And we really appreciate all the times that you spend with us and help us, and especially me on my last presentation I did where I pulled you in, reeled you in, and you helped me. So thank you again for that. I know I'm the 10th time I've said that, or 15th. So with that, I've had a great time individually one-on-one talking to you, asking all kinds of questions. And I could talk to you for another probably 3 hours, but I won't put people through that. But I would like to open it up to others that would like to ask you questions.
Sure. Anybody wants to know anything about me within reasonable bounds, I'm willing to share.
So are you interested in helping with any of our classes this coming? We're doing planning on it.
Am I interested in doing, and that's
I got him.
Putting him on
you
the
didn't.
spot.
The real the reason that I feel on the spot, and this is something that I really need to talk to like the people at Adaptive about, is that I don't want to undercut
that makes
Adaptive's
complete
business.
sense. Sure.
So
true.
I am like, geez, I would love to do a CBDA type class, CBDA study sessions for for the chapter. And then I look at it and say, well, let's see, those are classes that I'm supposed to be teaching, and if we don't get anybody to register for those classes, I'm going to be out of a job. And if I keep doing study groups for the IIBA chapters,
yeah, because we charge less than
yeah,
for-profit organizations do. So yeah.
So that's and I suppose I could I could kind of go both ways on it, because I think there's a lot of the other stuff that Adaptive offers that goes along with my sterling personality that it would not be available at the chapter level. It's just proprietary resources. But I don't know. It's something that it's something that has tweaked me. I do have in mind at some point putting together a formal class in the BA kinds of things on the data side. And I've said this, actually I said this to my last CBDA class, that I'm hoping at some point soon to put together a class that covers basically SQL, Excel, and Tableau from the perspective of what do I need to know as a business analyst to work with these tools, not what do I need to know to be an expert with any one of them, but how do I ramp up my skills with these tools? So I'm thinking about that. I actually, in the New York chapter, because I was involved with the New York chapter for a number of years while I was out there, I sat in on their CBAP study groups. Just because I was available, and I said, you know what, I'm not teaching CBAP stuff for adaptive. So I'll sit in on your study groups and just be kind of there as another resource that knows his way around the BA world and can probably help people get prepped up for CBAP. So that's that's certainly something that I would be interested in. I'm not sure where CPOA is going to go. I'm trying to talk adaptive into offering CPOA classes, but I'd be interested in helping out with something like that. With any of these, I'd kind of be interested in helping out.
Well, I have a question on that pertains to helping out. And Yulia asked, if you were to mentor a junior BA on the job, what would you teach them to survive on challenging projects? What are your BA survival skills? Ooh.
I like that one.
What are your BA
Yulia's going to be
skills?
Yeah, Yulia's going to be our next BA on the street. So,
I think I think it goes back to those kinds of things that I was talking so much about before. Having that curiosity, understanding that you're working to help people to do a job better, approaching it from that perspective, and keeping that as a mindset that says, you know what, sometimes these people are going to be tough to deal with. Sometimes they're going to be annoying. Sometimes it's not going to be easy. But what I'm really here to do is to help people do their jobs better. And I think if you bring that attitude to the table and you can maintain that attitude, that people begin to realize that that's what you're there for. I can go back to when I worked in the healthcare environment. I was involved with a project that was helping our enrollment department, and we did a first cut of the project, and it was a fast, down and dirty job. We got it done in like 2 weeks, and we handed them over a tool, and they loved it for the first couple of weeks that they used it. And then they started to kind of grouse about why doesn't it do this, and why all those kinds of questions that new products raise. And I said to the enrollment people, I said, look, I can do whatever you want. You need to be engaged in this process. You need to help me to understand what you need. And that started a relationship where by the time I left the company, the enrollment department said, we can't have a meeting without Tom because he knows everything about what we do here. So, and then I was coming from the IT side, but I had developed that. And because it was, I want to help you do your job better.
Right.
It broke down a lot of the barriers and a lot of the walls. And, I think in some cases, or in some aspects, I was the rebel around there, that I was not the one that was basically putting the IT wall up and saying, well, we know better than you. It was like, hey, you tell me what you want and I will do what I can to, help you get that. But if you don't tell me what you want, I'm stuck. I can't do anything without the information. And so it was bringing that kind of, I want to help you to the table. And I think that, that really is the way to mitigate a lot of the challenges.
Right. So good BA survival trick is to actually have the curiosity, have the soft skills to be able to relate to people and truly listen and try to understand and help them to understand what it is that they're saying. That
Yeah,
counts, right?
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Oh,
I think, the way I was going to say it is that you have to honestly be interested in what they're doing.
that's a good
That's,
point.
you got to have that. I want to help you. And it's not that I want to help you because I want to get a bigger paycheck, or um, you've got to have that interest. It's funny because as I'm looking around, as I'm thinking about wanting to do some work now outside of the training environment, the consulting environment, I'm saying, you know what? I want to get back into healthcare because, well, I, I'm over emotional because I spent a lot of time in that environment, and I just understand the whole idea of people needing to have healthcare.
Right.
And I worked, the company that I worked for did primarily Medicare and Medicaid. So I knew it
Right.
was the older population and the population that is not as affluent. And they were people that we were out there to help.
Right. And that's a great, that is a great vision and desire to have going forward. I don't know how I can top that with any other questions. I really don't.
I can say this, Tom, it is awesome when you hear people talk about their passion the way you did, and knowing that your goal is to make people's lives better through your BA skills. It doesn't matter what you were doing. That's what your goal is. And I can't imagine you didn't succeed at that.
I certainly hope that I did. I mean, and it's funny, the one story that I do have to tell you all, because it's another one that's near and dear to my heart, and I hope I can not cry my way through it. Actually, I was a member of I actually am a member of TANG, which is the Technology Executives Networking Group. And the New York chapter, they had monthly meetings, and this was designed for people, primarily for people who were transitioning, looking for new jobs at the executive level.
Okay.
So, and the meetings, the way they ran the meetings was that at some point during the meeting, you would be responsible for saying, what is something about your career that you felt was the most rewarding thing about your career? And I said, you know what? The best thing that I've done, and the thing that still makes me smile, is that I prompted and worked with two of my BAs to get them certified. One is a CBAP and one is a CCBA. And that just really makes my heart so warm.
Right.
That I was able to do that for those people. And they're good people. I mean, they were great people. But it was just, you know what? You need to go and get this certification. You can do this. Here's resources to help you. You need training. Good. We've got training money in the budget. Go get the training to get certified. And that, probably more than anything else that I've done in my career, is the thing that I rest on.
Right. And what a passion. What a sincere passion. Wow.
So I would like to say thank you very much for your time today, Tom. We definitely saw the passion. You had some amazing, great tips. And knowing that we're planning our upcoming topics for meetings and classes, you gave us some really good ideas. So I'd like to say from the Bluegrass chapter, thank you very much for presenting today. And we are very glad and proud to have you part of our chapter.
I'm proud to have you as our friend. So thank you.
I am very happy to be a part of this group. I mean, I just really have enjoyed the stuff that I've participated with in Bluegrass, and the Philippine connection is just one of the things that I'm really jazzed by, that you guys have taken it on yourselves to mentor an entire group of BAs to basically help them to get their feet on the ground as an IIBA chapter. And I think that that's really cool. I enjoy getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning to be online with you guys. there's a part of me that really wants to put together a presentation, a formal presentation, so that I can get on the docket to.
Oh, I totally will reach
share
out
with
to you in the next like 15 minutes.
I know.
We have
Oh,
openings
no.
in January. I think is our next
I-
opening. Well, thank you all very much for participating. It is time to sign off.
Well, I appreciate it, Tom, and thank you for meeting me on BA on the street and having this conversation, because
That's
it always
pleasure.
makes my day to have this talk with you. So thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I just hope that the people that were listening in got some good stuff out of it.